Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Review. I'm Phil Hargis. Thanks for tuning in. We are ready, guys. It's finally just about that time. The drafts are just about done. You may have one or two more drafts here as the season draws clear, but basically, you guys have got all the information you need to go out there and have a really successful draft. We've told you to take running backs early and often in almost all leagues and formats. Sometimes you may want to stretch and take a quarterback because it'll make you feel good, but believe me, I've now done 5 different real fantasy drafts online. And I can tell you, if you draft a quarterback in that first round, you're going to be spending the rest of your draft playing catch-up in these leagues. It's just so hard to do. I've also done simulations where I've taken Jimmy Graham in the first round, or Gronkowski. I've seen him taken in the first round. You just cannot make up for the loss of running back depth if you take those guys early on in the draft. It's one of those things you have to really watch out for. You haven't drafted yet, be careful of that. But the Week 3 preseason games have come and gone, so that basically means that all the starters, we know who the majority of the starting players out there are going to be. There's still a couple of controversies out there, and we will talk to those when we get to our matchups for the Week 1. And we will be here basically the entire show today previewing you and telling you who to start and who to bench for the NFL's opening season, which is coming up on Wednesday, September 5th. Anyway, we're really excited about that. We have, as usual, in the house today, Robbie Castor. Robbie, it's good to see you again, man.
Yeah, definitely good to see you too.
All right, man. How are the drafts going?
So far, so good. I mean, I guess I got, I kind of went quarterback first round, which we don't like doing on the show, but I couldn't pass up Rodgers at 4, so.
All right, we'll get to that in a second here. Let's also welcome Larry Lagallo. Well, Larry, welcome back to the show. We had you last winter for one of our playoff episodes, and you went on to win that league. That was the Matt Vaughn League Championship, and you're the league champion with Matt Stafford and Megatron taking the championship. Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Review.
Thank you very much, Phil. Glad to be here.
Okay, so you and I were getting ready to play a head-to-head matchup that week, and we had kind of a crazy game. We went up with a tie, and it came down to a tiebreaker. It was a really high-scoring game, really exciting. And Vernon Davis, the guy that I traded you during the course of the season, actually ended up coming back to bite me in the ass, and you ended up winning the title because of him.
He did. I needed a touchdown from Vernon Davis, and I got it, and it was a big one.
Okay, so let's talk about Matt. Robbie and I talk about fantasies and drafting, and the majority of the leagues that we're in are point per reception leagues or regular performance-based leagues. But Matt's league is a lot different. His league, you basically draft the same starting lineups: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and a flex position, and a kicker and a defense. And then you're actually a pretty deep bench. So you have to know what you're doing to draft a pretty good bench. But his scoring system is 5 points for touchdowns between 0 and 20, 6 points for touchdowns 20 to 40, and then 7 points for touchdowns 40 plus, and you get bonuses for 300 and 100-yard rushing games. But it's all the same no matter what your position. So quarterbacks, from our experience, are a lot heavier, and you had Matt Stafford in that league, and he was one of the top quarterbacks at the end of last year. I mean, explain to our viewers out there what the difference between Matt's league and your more traditional leagues are.
Well, I don't think it's quite as extreme as you do as far as quarterbacks versus everyone else. I think you do need a good quarterback. And I had Matt Stafford last year, and that helped me win it. But I also had Calvin Johnson. I had Maurice Jones-Drew. I had Michael Bush had a great touchdown year. I had Rob Gronkowski I got late. So you need the other pieces around it, not just the quarterbacks. Matt Stafford definitely helped me win. But if I had taken Matt Stafford in the first round, as you're proposing to take quarterbacks in the first round in his league because they're so much more important, then I wouldn't have been able to take Calvin Johnson in the first round. I wouldn't have been able to take Chris Johnson, who I traded for MJD, which turned out to be a good trade. And so that might not have been I might not have won if I had taken a quarterback in the first round. So I don't necessarily think it's a must take quarterback. But you have the second pick in the draft coming up, and you said you're going to take a quarterback.
I am. I'm sold on that. I mean,
oh my God!
So tell me about
it. It's a different. I mean, it's a quarterback-heavy league. I mean, I do advocate always taking. And your example is actually a perfect example of why you don't need to take a quarterback in the early rounds, because you waited until the 4th or 5th round last year and you got Stafford.
Right.
And like you said, you were able to get those other guys and have a much more well-balanced team. You lucked out. I'm going to say you lucked out and got Stafford. Stafford was an up-and-coming quarterback last year.
I did luck out, but the years that I have been successful in Matt's league, I always have had a good quarterback, so it is important, but I haven't taken the quarterback early. I had Carson Palmer the year he broke out. 2005, the year he had his great first year
breakout.
Right, I had him that year. I got him at a reasonable round. You can go way back before that. I had Dante Culpepper the year he busted out. Last year I had Matthew Stafford, who I got in the 4th round. So I think you do need a good quarterback to win. I don't necessarily think you need one of the top 3 quarterbacks to win.
Okay, well, Robbie, you had your draft last week, and I guess you had the 4th pick, and you had Arian Foster, Ray Rice, LaShawn McCoy go. So you decided to go quarterback, despite everything we preach on the show.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't regret it at all because he was one of the top point producers last season. But we did talk about last season to this season, and everything changes a little bit. But Aaron Rodgers solid at the quarterback position. It's not a quarterback heavy league like yours, but you still get your points through yardage and different touchdowns. I mean, and let's put it this way: Rodgers will have at least 4 to 6 rushing touchdowns on the year. So I mean, it only will help in the long run. So. To be honest with you, I don't think getting Aaron Rodgers, 4th overall was such a bad pick. And then it came back to me, and I got Roddy White. So.
And what do your running backs look like?
I have MJD, who I got in the 3rd round. And
that's a big question.
Yeah, huge question. But it's a risk-reward type thing. I have Sean Green and Doug Martin also to fill that void.
Those guys, Doug Martin could be a comer. Sean Green, who knows?
Yeah, well, I think Sean Green could get a lot of carries only because the Jets didn't have passing game.
True.
And he is really the only show in town up there too for the Jets. So
right.
Yeah, it's a long shot, but he can end up being pretty good enough for you. And did you end up with any good receivers or tight ends?
Yeah, actually, it's a 2 tight end league, so I got Jermichael Finley, so double the points right there when he catches touchdown pass from Rodgers.
There you go.
And Kobe Fleener, the rookie out of Indianapolis.
Oh, you're on the bandwagon, huh?
Well, I like him because he's a big target for Andrew Luck, and those guys already have that chemistry coming from Stanford, so I think it will correlate into the regular season in the NFL.
Okay, we got to like the logic there. And one of the luxuries you do have if you do take a quarterback in the 1st round, and again, I'm not going to recommend it. I mean, Robbie's going to make do with it. Is that you will end up with the gaping holes in your line, but the nice thing is you don't have to worry about taking a quarterback again. Basically for the entire draft. I mean, you could wait until the last round and pick up your backup quarterback.
That's very true. And you don't have to decide between those second-tier guys, between what it's going to be Josh Freeman or is it going to be Matt Ryan? Could Joe Flacco finally have a good, you don't have to kind of make that decision. If you got one of the studs, you're set for quarterback, and that is a nice comfort there.
And if you have a catastrophic injury, I mean, your season's basically done anyway, or you can try to salvage it on the waiver wire.
Put a lot of your eggs in the basket of whoever you pick first, so that's very true.
Okay, so Robbie, I mean, any other observations from the first draft that you did? I mean, you got your quarterback, but like other players that like maybe got overvalued in your draft so far, or undervalued. Like Adrian Peterson people don't seem to be worried about his injury. He's still getting drafted pretty high.
He got drafted in the 2nd round in our league, and then also I think the wide receivers came flying off the board. Like, the Jimmy Grahams, the Gronkowskis, obviously were taking the first 2 rounds. But then, Wes Welker, Brandon Lloyd, Aaron Hernandez were taken in the top 5 in our league. So kind of quarterback heavy, especially with the offensive line in New England being so volatile. So again, I thought that was Brandon Lloyd overdrafted, Wes Welker was overdrafted. Not saying they're not going to have great, or bad seasons, but
in other words, all the Patriots were overdrafted.
I think so. I'm
checked out their offensive numbers the last few years.
I have.
Not too bad.
I have. I mean, yeah, you're right. So I mean, but also a lot of Falcons came off the board early, like Roddy White, Julio Jones, Michael Turner. And Matt Ryan.
And Jack was Rodgers.
And Rodgers was like top 8. So those guys came off.
Big things for them.
Just look at the Cowboys. I mean, DeMarco Murray had a great season end of the season last year.
That's a good point, though. Like Dez Bryant and Miles Austin are falling in.
Yeah, that's great. So let them fall, and then you can take them in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. Which they were going. So Roman's got to find somebody on that offense to throw to.
Very true, but I think the reason they're falling is the injuries and the off-the-field issues for Dez Bryant. So it's one of those things. It's tough to spend a 2nd or 3rd round pick on someone that you don't know how many games they're going to play.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the after the top 3 running backs there, McCoy, Foster, and Rice. I mean, I think there's quite injury question marks surrounding almost all those guys. I mean, Chris Johnson, not really. McFadden, sure. Steven Jackson, he's getting older. Adrian Peterson for sure. MJD coming off the holdout. Jamal Charles, Ryan Matthews, Marshawn Lynch, Trent Richardson. All those were the next guys off the board. They're all injury concerns.
Yeah, you're right.
Very true.
Trent Richardson went very high to our draft, middle of the 2nd round. he got his knee scoped about 5-6 weeks ago. I would stay away from that guy. Being a rookie, especially in Cleveland, they have such bad luck. And the games, I know he didn't fumble that much at Alabama or at all, but still, he's a question mark.
And what do you guys think about some of these second-tier running backs that people were able to pick up? Rashad Jennings, Mark Ingram, Isaac Redman, guys of that caliber. Not Beanie Wells, but Michael LaShore, Jacquizz Rodgers. We were just talking about him.
Yeah.
Kendall Hunter. Are those guys going to pan out this year?
There's always a couple that will. It's just finding which ones will and which ones won't.
Anybody you like in particular off that list, you guys?
From that list, there's nobody that jumps out at me. I mean, I guess Isaac Redman, you could argue if the Steelers running back, number one Steelers running back is almost always going to be a good value play. And if you can get him in the 6th round and he turns out to be the main guy there, that's somebody that
And then pick up Mendenhall if you
be
can a couple
something.
rounds later.
Yeah, I think you'd probably want to get Mendenhall. I don't know how many games he's going to miss. What are they saying, 4 or 5 games?
Probably.
He's out
Yeah,
until week 6, I think.
Oh, he's on the pup list.
You'd probably want to get him if you think he's going to be drafted at all. Probably want to go ahead and spend a late round pick on him.
Yeah, it's frustrating holding those spots because you need to win in your first 6 games as many as possible. I mean, so what's really the value of having a guy on the bench anyway? I mean, you can stash him away for the playoffs or maybe make a trade for him later if you can. But
Right.
Robbie, you think of those guys? I mean, I'm kind of high on Jacquizz Rodgers. I think the Michael Turner is kind of an aging thing, of the slow, fat thing of the past, and I think his days are numbered. I think the Jacquizz Rodgers is really exciting. I kind of thought the same thing last year, but he ended up, never really getting into that role. And I also think that perhaps Kendall Hunter could be a good, get some good time there from Frank Gore.
Yeah, I like Kendall Hunter, but that running back situation in San Francisco is a little unsettled. I mean, you have Frank Gore, and then after that, do you have Michael James, do you have Brandon Jacobs, do you have Kendall Hunter? Is Kendall Hunter going to be a 3rd down back mainly? So you don't know how many touchdowns he's going to get because of, like I said. And then they have the targets in Vernon Davis, Crabtree down in San Francisco that, and Alex Smith can still run too. So there's a lot of hands to feed if you're the running backs, if you're in that situation in San Francisco.
I mean, what do you think about Alex Smith? Is this a guy that can be a top 15 quarterback, or is he still going to be just too unenthusiastic here?
I think he can be top 15, right around top 15, 12 to 15.
Top 10?
Top 10 is a stretch. I just think that offense isn't geared towards having a prolific quarterback. I think 12 to 15, somewhere in that range. Safe, good backup quarterback, good guy to have. If you're going to take a chance on someone like Michael Vick, you might handcuff him with a safe guy like Alex Smith to get you a sure 15 points a game.
What about Michael Vick? Is that somebody you guys want with his flak jacket? I mean, it looks to me like he's set up for a really bad season.
I think Michael Vick, I like. If you could have gotten Nick Foles in like the 17th round, that'd be a good play.
Well, you could definitely get him in the last round. He's not getting
Oh,
drafted.
I know. I'm just saying, if you can pick up a waiver wire, as soon as Vick gets hurt, because it's inevitable, it's going to happen. I think that he just exposed himself too many times trying to run the ball, especially in preseason. He was diving head first for a 1st down. It's like, take it easy, So Vick, again, I thought was overdrafted going in the 4th and 5th round, only because of the injury presence.
Well, I think you're going for upside there. I mean, if he does stay healthy, and it's not totally inconceivable, he has been healthy for a full year before.
Once.
Well, that's all it takes. They said the same thing about Matthew Stafford last year. They said he was a big injury, but nobody's talking about his injuries now. So 1 year, that one half season he had in Philly, if he can repeat that for, I think even 12 games. I think you'd take 12 games of Michael Vick playing at top level, and you'd be pretty happy with that if you took him in the 4th round.
If you get a full season from, I'm asking both of you guys, if you get a full season from Vick or Stafford, which one would you rather have, Larry?
That's tough, but I'd say Stafford just because he's got more weapons, just because Calvin Johnson.
Castro, what do you think, Juan?
You know what? I think Vick because he does it on the ground. That's the only thing I think that separates him from Stafford. Is the legs.
But they run that offense through LaShawn McCoy, and I think that will be the same with a healthy Vick or with a not healthy Vick.
And the Detroit run game is absolutely non-existent. at this point.
They rely on the pass game, and that's it, and it works for them.
All right, man. You guys, we took a lot of time there. Let's get into the matchups here. We've got the rest of the show to talk about these. We have a Wednesday night football game here to kick things off here. The Cowboys and the Giants, two teams we're very well familiar with. The defending Super Bowl champions are going to be hosting what it seems to be a team that's in total shambles here, the Dallas Cowboys. Do the Cowboys have any chance in this one?
It's at the Meadowlands, or the new Meadowlands. I would say the Giants would be prohibitive favorites, but you never know. This could be a really bad season for the Cowboys.
They look like they're in shambles, Robbie.
Well, I think their defense has kind of stepped up a little bit. The first 2 games, they looked really well with the emergence of their cornerback situation. Gilmore didn't play Morris Claiborne didn't play the first 3 weeks, but he's back now. I think that Romo's going to be in midseason, full season form. Des Bryant will be all right. Ogletree's kind of stepped in for Miles Austin, and then you do look at Miles Austin and also Jason Witten, and you're like, are these guys going to play a full year? If not, it could be trouble.
Big question marks. They really need DeMarco Murray to have a full year and have a good year.
I got the Giants winning 31-6 in that game. Let's move on. Welcome to the NFL, Andrew Luck. You get to face the Chicago Bears in your first game. How is it?
You know what? I think Luck will definitely turn some heads in this game. I don't think they're going to win in Chicago because playing at Soldier Field is so tough. But I like the emergence of Brandon Marshall and Jay Cutler back again. Then you have Matt Forte coming off that big contract. You have this big contract in the offseason with Michael Bush. Running the ball inside the red zone. I think you start just about every offensive player you can on the Bears, only because the Indianapolis Colts defense is that bad.
You can start Alshon Jeffrey in that game.
You know what? Probably not, but he's a guy that, if you could target him like the 14th, 13th, or 14th round, he's definitely a guy with some upside because, there's going to be more guys to throw to other than, Greg Olsen and Brandon Marshall down in Chicago.
What do you think, Larry? Between Andrew Luck and Reggie Wayne, is there most on the Colts area you want on your team?
I'd say those 2 guys, and Donald Brown had a couple good plays, and I could see him as, if you get him late and some of your running backs get hurt, you might end up playing him.
Okay, let's move on to that one. That's going to be a tough one. Chicago, incidentally, Larry, you may not know this is my preseason Super Bowl finalist for the NFC.
Is that right? Well, that's a bold prediction.
And I'm not really going on a limb. I think I think the addition of Brandon Marshall there is going to be strong for him, and Forte and the Michael Bush to mix things up in the goal line, like Robbie was saying. I think can make them very strong contenders in a very tough division, though, too.
Yeah. You like Cutler?
I do like
As
Cutler.
a fantasy
I do. I think he's an
backup fantasy quarterback.
I'd take him as a starter guy this year.
Would you? Over?
Yeah, but I'll be drafting quarterbacks in the first round, of course.
Not over Matt Ryan.
No, I wouldn't take him over Ryan, but I would not too far behind him. I'd put him above Griffin or Luck, though.
Okay, I guess that makes him a starter.
I'd put him above Roethlisberger.
I think I would too.
And some guys like caliber, Eli, maybe right there after Eli gets drafted is when I would probably look to draft Jay Cutler in the late rounds after I got probably 3 running backs and 3 receivers on my team.
And a tight end or 2.
Okay, we have an AFC East game coming in here next. Buffalo against the New York Jets, another team that appears to be in tremendous shambles, hasn't scored any touchdowns here in the preseason. But who cares? It's preseason, right, guys?
Yeah. The Jets look terrible, but they're at home against Buffalo. They'll be able to move the ball a little bit. Buffalo's defense is vastly improved. They have Mario Williams. They moved to a 3-4. So he's playing one of the ends now. But again, the Buffalo Bills, they have a pretty good offense with Fred Jackson back, C.J. Spiller in the backfield, and then you also have you have Stevie Johnson, David Nelson. David Nelson's a guy that you can get late round. He's of good value. Fitzpatrick will throw some interceptions, but I like the Jets in this game. I think it's going to be a ground attack. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think Sean Green, I think he at least finds the end zone once in that game.
Okay.
Is Tebow going to find the end zone in that game, Larry?
I don't know what the story with Tebow is going to be. I think he'll see some time on the field, but that's going to be an interesting story to watch with the Jets.
Yeah.
I can't see taking any Jets fantasy guys.
No, there's really nobody there on that team that I would want at all.
No, including Sean Green. I hope he does well for you, but he won't be on my team.
I mean, maybe in the entire last round of the draft, I would consider taking Santonio Holmes only because he's their top receiver and apparently has made amends with Mark.
He might have fallen
really
too far. Yeah, he might. The hate on him might have gone a little too far.
And if you do like him, you can get great value on Santonio Holmes. But again, that's the only guy that has anything close to value on that team.
Yep.
Moving on, we got the Redskins. They're going to be going on the road to play the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are a team that people think are in shambles. They said, well, they've lost Robert Meacham from their squad. They've lost their coach. They've lost half their defense. There's no way this team can be a Super Bowl contender this year, is what a lot of people are saying. Is that in fact true?
You know what? I don't see that. I think that, given the offseason, the dismal offseason they've had, I think Drew Brees is a leader. He's going to step up. I don't think it really matters who coaches that team because they have so many weapons on offense. Ingram's back he's got a full season under his belt. Pierre Thomas still in the backfield. That'll take the weight off Brees' shoulders a little bit. And then, Marquise Colston, Lance Moore, Jimmy Graham, those 3 guys. I mean, they're on the same page. It really doesn't matter who's giving him the ball. I mean, Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL by far. He'll find a way to get in the end zone this year. Washington, different story. RG3 is going to do all right, but he's going to struggle, I think, in the Superdome. And it's going to be a tough game for the Redskins, I think.
Okay, Larry, you're sitting there in the first round. You have pick number 8 or 9, and all the top quarterbacks and all the top running backs and Megatron are going off the board. Say Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham are left. Which one are you going to take?
In that situation, I'd probably take Drew Brees. I like Jimmy Graham a lot. It would depend on maybe PPR might swing it a little bit, but I'd probably take Drew Brees because he does spread the ball around. Graham might be his favorite, but everybody's going to get a little taste.
All right, do you like anything there from Washington at all, the Redskins running game or passing game?
I like RG3 as a late flyer pick. He's one of the guys that, depending on what your strategy is, if you can't get any of the stud quarterbacks, you might want to go 3 random flyer quarterbacks and hope one of them explodes. Something like RG3, Andrew Luck, and Josh Freeman, maybe, if you could get him, if you get all 3 of those guys late.
We like Freeman this year, yeah.
I would say one of them's going to do well, and that's what it takes. Just
Who's
takes
going to
one.
be the top receiver there, Robbie, this year for the Redskins?
I think Pierre Garçon, because he has great chemistry with RG3, and they've been talking about that a lot. So I think with Garçon, I mean, he'll definitely catch a lot of long touchdown passes. So if you're in a bonus league that does that, I mean, he'll definitely stoke you on there. But it all depends on RG3, and he's been going late in draft. I should say he's been going earlier than expected in drafts.
I think so. Yes.
Okay,
The
well,
Cam Newton factor.
Go and tell me this. Then, do the Redskins have any chance to win this game?
No.
No.
No?
No.
Yeah, probably not.
Not this one.
Probably not. But I do believe
They will win some this
I think if they
season,
go,
but not this one.
I think if they manage to go and win this game, they're actually going to start the season 6-0. Let's go that. We'll save that for week 2, though.
Okay.
The odds are very much against them to win this game. Let's move on to Jacksonville, Minnesota. These are 2 of the worst teams in the entire NFL here, but maybe it could be good for fantasy football purposes here. They do have quality players, 2 of the better running backs on paper in the NFL. Adrian Peterson and MJD. If MJD gets out there in that game, which he probably will. Outside of those 2 guys, I mean, who are you guys looking at for good fantasy production in this game? And if there's anybody you want to start?
You know what? I like. It's kind of tough to tell. I like Percy Harvin as the only guy that I would start between these 2 matchups, unless you have Rashad Jennings.
What about Justin Blackman, Larry? Is that guy going to be worth starting?
Justin Blackman might be worth starting. He's been a kind of trendy sleeper in some drafts that I've seen. He's been picked up late. I think he's looked pretty good in the preseason, and so is Blaine Gabbert. So not that I recommend starting Blaine Gabbert, but Blackman might be somebody. If he ends up having a good season, Blackman's going to be the beneficiary.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Blackman could be a sleeper as well.
Okay, again, you have to draft a troublemaking rookie receiver on your team, and do you want to waste a roster spot on him? I mean, I certainly don't. All right, man. Let's move on to the Falcons. This is the much-typed Falcons against a sort of an underachieving Kansas City Chiefs team, I think, here. I think there's a lot of fantasy potential in this game, Larry. I mean, Jamal Charles coming off an injury against the aging Michael Turner, and Matt Ryan kind of coming into his own here with all those weapons here, a former playoff team here. This should be just an exciting game to watch.
It should be an interesting game, high scoring, I would think. Atlanta's their offense looks like it's ready to unleash the way Detroit broke out last year. Could be a similar thing, and they do have a lot of guys that are going to be fantasy relevant.
Is it going to be hard for them to go outside of the dome again this year, Robbie?
I think it's going to be a tough game for them because they played the Chicago Bears last season and put up only 6 points on the board.
Well, remember the Giants game?
Yeah,
shut out.
Exactly. So it's going to be tough for them to move the ball in Kansas City because their front 4 for Kansas City is pretty good. And I know it's going to, Michael Turner takes the load off of Matt Ryan's shoulders a little bit, but Matt Ryan still, can he get over that hump this season? I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough game for the Falcons in the first one.
Okay, let's move on here to Philadelphia and Cleveland. This looks like a gross mismatch on paper here, but again, a prohibitive favorite going on the road against a tough Cleveland defense. I mean, maybe this is a trap game for the Eagles.
I think we'll find out a lot about the Eagles from this game, yeah. This will say a lot to their season. If they go out and take care of business early, they could be tough in that division. If they struggle, it could be a little bit like last year.
But, Rob, you're not going to bench any Eagles, and you're probably not going to start any Browns, are you?
No, I definitely wouldn't start any Browns unless you have Trent Richardson. It depends on who's your back. I like Richardson in this one, only because the Eagles.
I think if you draft Richardson, you got to start him.
You got to start him. He's a must start. It's the only must start I think you start on the Browns this game.
All right, Detroit against St. Louis. This is a dream fantasy matchup for anybody that has a Detroit line, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it. St. Louis is pretty bad.
Yeah, and there's nobody from St. Louis you want to start at this point.
Yeah, you start everyone down to Pettigrew to Kevin Smith maybe. You start maybe not Kevin
Titus
Smith.
Young, Nick Burleson, you could start
right.
in.
You can easily start him at a 3 wide receiver flexibly.
Yep.
And I think that Steven Jackson's probably the only player from the Rams that you're going to start here. Miami and Houston. I think Houston's my other Super Bowl prediction. I think it's going to be Houston, Chicago.
Okay.
I think this is a good place for them to get the season off to a good start here. I think they can kind of ease Arian Foster back into the game. And Andre Johnson, they don't really need to go out there and put too much, ease all these guys into the season against a very weak Miami team.
Yeah, you're right. I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Miami. I wouldn't start anybody in Miami because Tannehill's going to struggle a little bit. Houston's defensive, more focused on the pass D this season. So I really think that it's going to, definitely flip the field for the Texans. And I think they might score a lot of touchdowns because of that.
We'll see. Their defense did look great last season after looking horrible the season before. Let's hope it's just not one of those flip-flops again for them.
I think the next game is probably the game of the day for me. It's San Fran against Green Bay. This is the game that should have been the NFC Championship game, but it wasn't because the Giants beat Green Bay. But this is going to be an awesome game, guys. And I think that San Francisco is going to come out here and prove just how real and legitimate of a team that they are, and they're going to beat the Green Bay Packers in this one.
Oh, that's your big, that's a big. I think you're right too. I like that. I think that Alex Smith, he's not afraid anymore. They kind of take the load off the shoulders a little bit with Frank Gore. Green Bay's defense just is not good.
All right, Larry, who you liking this game real quick, man? San Fran or Green Bay?
I like Green Bay. I think San Fran might be due for a little bit of a regress this year.
All right, man, let's get to the Monday night games here. Everybody's going to be up watching these games. Let's round out their fantasy football weekends. We got Cincinnati and Baltimore here. This is always a good matchup here in Baltimore. Two pretty good teams there in the AFC.
Yeah, you're right. I like Baltimore at home again.
Yeah,
Flacco, let's see what he does. Andy Dalton, sophomore slump maybe. AJ Green.
And here, Larry, let's move on to the last game. San Diego and Oakland here. This should be a pretty good game. This is always a good AFC West battle here. And is this going to be the year that McFadden gets through the season unhurt?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, this game. I think whoever wins it takes a good hold of that division, takes a good start to winning that division.
Yeah, and they intentionally put that game last because they know that it's going to be hard to fall asleep during that exciting game.
That should be a good one.
Okay, well, you guys, that is awesome, man. We got through all these matchups here. We got time for one more here. I want to go ahead and talk about Seattle and Arizona. Those NFC West games are always really a lot of fun. I think Seattle's going to be a good team.
Who's going to be their quarterback?
Wilson, man.
All right.
It's already decided.
Well, for Arizona, though.
Russell Wilson. For Arizona,
Skeleton.
yeah. I guess we'll find out. Probably John Skeleton. Larry, you got any insight on the quarterback situation there in Arizona?
I don't, other than stay away from any of them.
All right, guys. Well, listen, it's finally here. The start of the NFL season is really exciting here. This is what we've been drafting and looking forward to all summer long since the Super Bowl last year. Hey, Larry, thanks for coming up here all the way from the forest of Charlottesville there to be on the show.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to watching some college football this weekend. Robbie, good to see you again. And Steve Mullen, thank you for directing. You guys all thank you for tuning in and watching Fantasy Sports Review. We'll see you next week for NFL Week 2. Goodbye, everybody.